The search helicopter went down on day 2. 3 rescuers were killed looking for one man, and when the search was finally called off, they still had not found him. John Devine was 73 years old. He was camping with a companion in the high country of Olympic National Park, a section of the park that experienced wilderness personnel describe as some of the most unforgiving terrain in the Pacific Northwest. Dense, old growth, fog that sits on the ridgelines for days without clearing, steep, fractured rock that shifts weather conditions fast enough that experienced searchers build exit plans before they enter. He was legally blind in one eye. On September 6, 1997, he split from his camping partner to take a short solo day hike. His companion waited. John did not return. The NPS search that deployed to Mount Baldy covered the terrain systematically, expanding grid from the point of last contact, tracking dogs, ground teams working through old growth that limits aerial visibility to near zero in sections. On September 8th, 2 days into the search, a rescue helicopter went down on Mount Baldy at approximately 5,200 feet. 3 rescuers were killed in the crash. The search for John Devine became simultaneously a recovery operation for the helicopter crew. Resources split, focus divided. The terrain that had made finding John Devine difficult had now killed 3 of the people looking for him. The official search for John Devine was eventually called off. He has never been found. No remains, no equipment, no indication of where a 73-year-old man with one functioning eye went in the fog and dense forest of Mount Baldy after he walked away from camp. The 3 rescuers who died searching for him are buried. John Devine is not. The NPS incident record documents the crash and the 3 fatalities. What it does not document is an explanation for what happened to the man the helicopter was deployed to find. In one of the most technically difficult and costly searches in Olympic National Park history, the park gave nothing back. A 73-year-old man, 1 functioning eye, Mount Baldy. 3 rescuers killed on day 2. The search called off, never found, subscribed to obscure nights. These are the cases the official record closes without closing. Now, I want to know what you think. Did the terrain take him before the helicopter even went up? Or does the fact that the search ended with 3 funerals tell you something about why it ended when it did? Drop your answer below. June 24, 2006. Staircase Ranger Station, Olympic National Park. Gilbert Mark Gilman was 47 years old. His official title was Deputy Director of the Washington State Department of Retirement Systems. What sat underneath that title was something different. Gilman was a former United States Army paratrooper, military interrogator, counter-terrorism and counterintelligence specialist. He had served in Iraq. He was fluent in Arabic, Russian, and Chinese. He had worked with the United Nations. His travel history included Iraq, Somalia, Kuwait, Israel, China, and Panama. A 2008 KIRO-TV investigation described him as having led a mysterious life and having worked on top-secret military intelligence assignments. On a Saturday morning in June, he parked his silver Ford Thunderbird convertible at the Staircase Ranger Station. He spoke briefly with Park Ranger Sanny Lustig. The ranger noted what Gilman was wearing: a Hawaiian shirt, khaki shorts, sandals. He was carrying a camera. He had no backpack. He was going for a short walk to take photographs. He walked into the forest. He was never seen again. His Thunderbird was still in the parking lot the following day when a coworker reported him missing. He had failed to appear for a scheduled business meeting in Spokane. 10 days, 62 ground searchers, tracking dogs, a helicopter with heat-seeking FLIR equipment. Every trail and ridge in the staircase section examined. Nothing found, not a shoe, not the camera, not his prescription glasses, without which he was described as nearly blind. His mother told reporters nothing was ever found. No remains, no glasses, no wristwatch, nothing. 3 theories have circulated in the years since. None confirmed, none eliminated. The first, he walked into the terrain in sandals and did not walk back out. Exposure, a fall, the forest keeping what it found. The second, his intelligence background was relevant. KIRO-TV investigated this angle in 2008. His bank accounts were monitored for years on the theory that he may have left deliberately. He had the skills and the contacts to disappear if he chose to. The third, Israel Keys. A self-confessed serial killer who lived in Nia Bay, Washington, 170 miles from Staircase, from 2001 to 2007. Keys was issued backcountry permits for Olympic National Park during that period. He told FBI agents he dumped at least one body in Lake Crescent, inside the park, weighted with anchors in 500 to 700 feet of water. He was known to target victims in remote locations. He was off work on Saturdays. June 24, 2006 was a Saturday. The FBI investigated and stated publicly that it was highly unlikely Keys was involved. They did not elaborate on what evidence supported that conclusion. Keys committed suicide in custody in 2012. Whatever he knew about what happened in Olympic National Park between 2001 and 2007 died with him. Gilbert Gilman was declared legally dead in 2015. 9 years after he walked past Ranger Lustig in sandals and a Hawaiian shirt and disappeared into a park that has never explained what happened to him. 11 years after Gilman disappeared, a 22-year-old cyclist left his bike on a road 6 miles into the same park. What the park did with him is the third case tonight. April 5, 2017. Jacob Gray was 22 years old. He left Port Townsend on his bicycle pulling a trailer full of camping gear, a bow and arrows, climbing crampons, 2 first aid kits, enough rope and tarps for extended backcountry camping. He was heading for the Daniel J. Evans Wilderness inside Olympic National Park. On the afternoon of April 6th, a woman driving Salt Duke Hot Springs Road passed him pedaling uphill about 2 miles from the highway. Later that afternoon, she noticed his rig parked at mile marker 6.3, completely alone, in full working order, exactly as he had packed it. She photographed it. She reported it. Ranger John Bowie checked the area. Bike, trailer, gear, undisturbed. No Jacob. The initial theory was simple. He had walked to the Salt Duke River to collect water and fallen in. 40-degree water. Fast current. A standard explanation for a solo person who disappears near a river. The search focused on the Salt Duke River corridor. Cadaver dogs hit on a log jam downstream. A pair of shorts in his size were recovered. DNA testing ordered. The search scaled back on April 16th, 10 days after the bike was found. Over 100 volunteers searched the river corridor in July 2017. Nothing. 16 months after the bike was found at mile marker 6.3, a team of park biologists studying marmots near Hoh Lake found abandoned outdoor equipment and clothing in a remote section of the Daniel J. Evans Wilderness. Law enforcement rangers searched the area the following morning and found skeletal remains, identified as Jacob Gray by dental records. Hoh Lake sits at 5,300 feet above sea level. at least 15 miles from where his bike was found on Salt Duke Hot Springs Road. His clothing was found scattered along the ridgeline near the lake. The area was not described as a campsite. It was a treeless ridge at 5,300 feet, not near a trail, not on any logical route from mile marker 6.3 to the Daniel J. Evans Wilderness. The King County medical examiner determined that cause and manner of death could not be confirmed. The Clallam County deputy coroner stated the death was most likely from natural causes, but could not confirm hypothermia specifically. His father, Randy, had searched for 16 months. He had put on a wetsuit and boogie-boarded the Salt Duke River searching caves and pools. He had driven to other states and into Canada following leads. Jacob's remains were found by biologists who were not looking for him. The official cause of death remains inconclusive. A bicycle at mile marker 6.3. Remains 15 miles away on a treeless ridge at 5,300 feet. Clothing scattered. Identified only by dental records. Cause of death inconclusive. Subscribe to Obscure Nights right now. This channel exists for the cases the official record cannot close. And I need you to tell me, do you think Jacob walked to that ridge? Or is there something about that 15 miles that the investigation never properly explained? Drop it below. I read every single one. Jacob Gray's clothing was found scattered on a ridge at 5,300 feet. That detail has a documented explanation, and understanding it could save your life. It is called paradoxical undressing. In the final stages of severe hypothermia, the body's peripheral blood vessels, which had been constricting to preserve core heat, suddenly dilate. Blood floods back to the skin. The dying person feels intensely warm, and they begin removing their clothing. It is the opposite of what survival should produce, but it is documented in case after case. Hypothermia victims found with clothing removed or scattered, exactly what investigators found on the ridge above Hoh Lake. There is a second phenomenon: terminal burrowing. In the final stages, some victims crawl into enclosed spaces, under roots, behind boulders, into any depression that offers enclosure. A primitive response, the body seeking insulation in the only way it has left. Both of these explain why hypothermia victims are often found miles from where they started, on ridges, behind rocks, in places that make no navigational sense. If you are hiking Olympic Peninsula in any shoulder season, April, October, November, wet cold at elevation kills faster than dry cold at the same temperature. Your outer layers losing insulation to rain in the first 2 hours is the beginning of the sequence that ends on a ridge with clothing scattered. Carry an emergency bivvy, not a space blanket, a bivvy. It maintains body heat even when everything else is soaked. It weighs less than a water bottle. 3 cases, 1 park. No answers from the official record. This is Obscure Nights, where the cases nobody talks about get told the way they actually happened. Good night.